And g'day everybody. What you're looking at here is Launceston Airport, Yankee Mike Lima Tango in Tasmania, on the island of Tasmania, which, if you know your geography of course, is located south of Australian mainland. It's freeware, this particular airport, and quite frankly, it's not bad for freeware. I think whoever did it put some ortho in there as well to make the surrounding area look pretty realistic. Okay, so what's happening today is I'll just zoom in on there if I can. And we're going to be taking the leading edge simulation Saab 340A. Now, the reason I'm flying this aircraft today is it's had a recent update to run in Vulcan, and at the same time LES have fixed up a number of bugs with the aircraft, but unfortunately, as you'll probably see later, there's just still a couple, and one in particular it's very annoying, but we'll try and get over that. Now, because I've already flown this aircraft a number of times since the update about a week ago. It was running okay on Vulcan most of the time, but I had one major crash with the sim crashed on me, and I sent the bug off, a report off to Laminar Research. They came back and said that it was some sort of a device problem. It didn't exactly identify it, and they suggested that at this point that I should go back to OpenGL, which I've done. Unfortunately, I would have preferred to stay on Vulcan, as long as I'm going to get some good frame rates, which at the moment I'm getting 34, which is just enough, I suppose. Okay, getting back to the aircraft, you'll see it's got the Rex Aviation livery on it. Rex Aviation in Australia are the biggest operators of the Saab. This particular model is there's not so many of the 340As around. They've all been upgraded since this model came out, and whilst they've all got glass cockpits, this one's still relying on the old Garmin 530, which is okay, but it just means we can't program in SIDS and stars. All our approaches have to be done on a vector basis, but that's okay. We can manage it. Right now, the aircraft is sitting at on the tarmac, and all the covers and chocks and witches' hats are all out. And what I've also done is I've hooked up the generator, and also I've opened the passenger door and dropped the stairways. Now, the thing about starting this aircraft and keeping in mind is that if you are using external ground power, you normally have to start the left-hand engine first. And the reason for that is because you would expect that there'd be ground personnel around the generator keeping an eye on things, and you wouldn't want them getting into trouble with that propeller there on the right wing, the right engine. So that's one of the reasons why they start the, if you're using ground power, why they start using the left engine. But of course you don't want to have the left engine going while your passengers are walking into the aircraft. That again is too dangerous. So before you start your engines, of course you've got to ensure that the front door is closed and the stairs have been withdrawn. Now this aircraft also has a baggage compartment at the rear, and maybe this is a bug, maybe it's something to do with the livery I've got here, but it for some reason you normally used to click here on that spot. It would open up and you look around inside, load things, and then click back again, but for some reason I can't get it to operate, and either with any of the other liveries that are available, so could be a bug, but it's nothing to really worry about at this stage. So just another quick point, Rex Aviation are basically they're really just regional airline, and they operate in a lot of routes around Australia that both Qantas and Virgin Australia don't operate aircraft on, like your Dash 8s, 717s and aircraft like that. They have been growing even in these hard times with the COVID virus, and they've now leased, I think it's not quite sure the number, is it 10 Boeing 737-800s. So they're going to go into more competition against the big guys. So let's just jump inside and start the ball rolling here. Now what I'll do first off is I'm just going to go and close everything up with the door and the stairs. So to do that, I've got a preset in here into the window, but just come back this way. Okay, nice internal view there. To bring the stairs up, we click this one. And the spring is up there. And to push it over to, whoops, sorry, wrong one. I forgot a passenger. He's just quickly coming in now. Okay, he's aboard. Let's close it up again. Now we click here, and this should move. This should move it over, out of the way. So that's out of the way. We can push this. Well, it's not really a jump seat. It's actually a seat for the flight attendants. So we've got to bring the door in. And we've got there's two locks. There's the big one here, and there's this one here. Okay, so that's everything's done. It's all locked up. Just a quick look in the cabin area for those who've not seen the Saab before. I'm just walking over here very slowly, and you've got a lot of controls here for your shades and your lights, or for your window overhead lights and things like that, but we're not going to worry about that today. You can move the shades on these if you want. So all in all, leading edge simulations have done a pretty good job inside of here. You know, all these lights work, but because it's not dark, we're not going to worry about it. So we're going to slip back inside the cabin and inside the cockpit, and what we do now is we close the door, but we have to lock it and double lock it. So, and this brings us back to the cockpit itself. From here, seeing that we've already got our external power up and operating, you can see the light here to confirm that it is available. But first thing we'll do is get our batteries on. And now that we know they're on, we get rid of the warning lights. Back up here and turn on the external power. That sound you can hear is all the hydraulics. You have to get used to that when flying this aircraft. You hear it all the time. Okay, so the external power is on. You just got to do a couple of checks here. First off, this is for the avionics. You can turn them on now if you want, but what actually happens is later on when you start the engine, they go off automatically anyway. Now have a look down here, and you can see that the alignment's already started. At this point, if you want, you can also activate the Garmin G530. If that's all in your way, you can just push that little Phillips screw up the top there, and it will make the yoke disappear, so you've got a better view. The Garmin's got to activate as well. Hit the OK, and there we are. If you push just in the middle of the Garmin, it comes up as a pop out, and if you want, you can hit this little square over here and take it over to another screen, which I do from time to time. Now, it just so happens that I've got the route that we're going to be taking today in already. Here's our flight plan. We're going from Launceston, and it's pronounced Launceston, not Launceston. We're going to be flying up to Melbourne, but I don't want to fly into Melbourne. I actually want to fly into an airport called Essendon, which is just slightly south. But we'll come back and fix that up after. I'll just move this out of the way, and we'll concentrate on getting the aircraft up and running. So a few things to do. We've got to reset some of these switches for the bleed. We're going to go up and check our temperature as well for our cabin temperatures. I usually take it up to about 4 to 5. This is for the flight deck, that's for the cabin. There's not a lot to do here. You don't have to touch much stuff. It's on auto. You can, of course, you can recirculate some air in the cockpit if you're in the cabin, and also on the flight deck. And you should be able to hear that in the background, I hope. These switches are for eyes protection. They're on at the moment, but as we get things fired up, a lot of those will automatically switch off. And that's all for your eyes protection for propellers and the engine. You do also have here, I'll just go back to here. You've got a power switch here to show you the situation with your electrics, for example. Now we're on external power, and we're getting our voltages up to between 25 to 30. And if you switch over to, none of the others are working now, so you'll just get the battery. You shouldn't get anything on a generator because the Jennies aren't running now. It'll tell you what the voltages are for your electronics, your emergency, all that sort of stuff. So I just leave it on power, this external power at this stage. Okay. Now, as far as fuel's concerned, I've already loaded in. I'm sorry, I'll just go back down there again. This is a better one here. I've already loaded in the fuel, and that's going to be enough to get us to Essendon, which is probably about an hour and a bit away. Just a quick check on make sure the trim tabs are set in the green. Everything else is looking good. I've already set the altitude on this particular flight to 18,000 feet, 180 flight level. Now, from what I understand, Rex Aviation, the aircraft don't fly above that level. It's either 18,000, so 180 if they're travelling even, and 170 if they're travelling odd. That's fairly common sort of altitude they fly to. And because we're going up that height, one thing we've got to do, and we should do now, is put the oxygen on for the cabin, so we don't have any asphyxiation. Now, as you saw before, I could pop up the ground support. So what I'm going to do now is all those items that are hooked up, like chocks and pitot covers and things like that. You can take them all off one at a time if you're so inclined. But seeing we're inside the aircraft now, we're just concentrating on getting going. I'll hit the button here which says remove all items. You'll find that it'll remove all the outside items we're just talking about, but it will leave the GPU hooked up, and that's the way we want it. So a quick look outside, and you'll see everything's gone except the GPU. Back inside again, we don't need this. Now, what you saw pop out on the right there is a Sassel, what do you call it, indicator bar, and it's got a lot of items, buttons up here to press in relation to Sassel itself, but we're not interested in that. We're only interested in what comes below stats, and that's a checklist. Now, the checklist is handy if you've never flown the aircraft before. You can go all the way through before engines start and things like that. It's very helpful. There's others down here like camera preset views. If you press certain areas, you'll get LES's idea of where your camera view should be. The ground support you've just seen. That's a takeoff status viewer. I'll just press that one. This is one that I've actually assigned to a joystick button, and the reason why is it become apparent in a minute. The sub-pilot chart selector means that if you've got some charts that you want to have a look at while you're flying along, you can push that up. Right now, I'll open it up. But sorry, you can't open it up unless you've got the yoke up. I'll go back there again. There it is. And the charts are up here now. You can either have no charts displaying, or you can choose ones that you've obviously loaded in at some stage in the folder for the Saab. I'll just do one randomly here, you'll see what I mean. So that's the benefit of that. That particular chart is just that's an approach to one of the runways in Sydney, but I'm not quite sure what it is, which one it is. But that's the sort of thing you can put in if you want to. Now, I haven't bothered to do that with the flight I'm doing today, because it's a fairly simple flight. Okay, we'll go out of that, come back here, and we'll just move that guy again. The other thing you can have here is you can control your sound volumes. Got all these individual sliders. There's quite a lot, and they all work quite well. For example, that doesn't show yet. That's the engines, but flaps, landing gear, chimes, master cautions, etc. And last, if you're really finding starting this aircraft up to be a little bit too complicated, you can go to a quick auto start, and it will take the aircraft right up to the point where you can taxi off, except you've got to put in your route in the GPS, in the Garmin. So that's the situation with that, right? Now, as I said before, I have the what they call the status viewer assigned to a rocket switch on my joystick. I'll set the throttle here. We'll move it. It catches those two across those bars as you move it up. And then we have the condition lever on the right hand side. You see it raced up to the top. You take it down to the bottom and it will grab them, and you can move it up and down. What you see there in the background, by the way, that's my Phantom throttle add-on plug-in. I'll use that with every aircraft, even this one. So getting ready to start her up, first off we've got to make sure that the throttles are in the idle position and that the condition lever is in the cut-off position. This little jiggly you see here I'd say that's a spike in my throttle control. It's pretty hard to get rid of it. You know, it's SATEC throttles aren't exactly 100% precise, so it's just one of those things you've got to live with. By the way, you can move this when it wants to cooperate. You can move it around and put it up in any position out of the way. Now, one thing I should mention, this I mentioned earlier in the piece about a bug, or a couple of bugs that still exist, and there is a bug with this particular update when it comes to the right condition lever, and you'll see that in a minute, and sometimes it can drive you crazy if you can't get it just right. The left one will start the engine without any problems at all, and as I said earlier, you should start the left engine first if you're using a ground power unit. If you're stuck at some airport and there's no external power supply, you can actually start using the batteries, in which case you could start the right engine if that's what you want to do. So here we go, we'll try this. Look around first to make sure everything's ready. Have to put on our emergency light to active. I like to reset the gens here at this stage for the left and right engine so that they're ready to be ready to come on. You can leave on your what they call the avion buttons, so switches for the EFIS and all the rest of it. But you'll find that I believe they do switch themselves off. A lot of the times when I start this aircraft, I don't even put those on until the engines are actually running. Okay, so everything else is looking quite there. All our lights are lit up nicely. And what we'll do is we're going to go for the left engine first. Now I'm going to use my button. It's not a button, it's a rotating knob on my throttle to bring up both condition levers up to the start position. And I'm going to go for the left engine first. Okay, that's the startup procedure. And what we can do is we can go down here and watch the revs climb. Temperature, of course, will go up to light the fires. You see what I mean by that? Already the Garmin switched off. So engine temperature rises, torque stays the same. Here's our revs for the left engine. So you see the Garmin came back on again because I switched the generator on up there. What happens too is you'll see the temperature will settle down. It'll come back down, it'll stay at a fixed while. Push this far one again while we're waiting. So everything's stabilised. Let's go back up again. So we do know the left generator is working because otherwise the Garmin would come back on, but I always like to double click just to be on the safe side. Now, if we want to, we can disconnect our external power, but I'm just going to leave it on for the moment. So let's go back down now. Now I can't start this right engine just by, and I'll demonstrate it. This is a bug. If I go to the right, you'll see the engine won't start, and that's a bug. What LES suggested we do, and I find this very difficult sometimes to do, is to push this lever down until it goes into the detent. And this is where I really have some trouble. So I'm going to come back up and I'm going to see if I can bring it forward and push it down. Now, I go up and I'll try it again. And it worked. So that's something you just got to look out for until they come to some sort of solution. It never used to work that way with the earlier model or the earlier version, but it does with this one. So you just got to keep that in mind. Again, this is this spiking that's going on that you can't do much. That's my ghost throttles, as you can see down here. Okay, that noise you just hear is confirmation that everything on the instrumentation is fired up again. Garmin has come back for the second time. Just a quick look at our instrumentation. You can see our temperatures are pretty well close together, and the revs on both engine and prop the revs are equal there too. Next thing, now that this is all working properly, we take the condition levers all the way up to max. Grab them, so I'll come back down and I'll grab it again. Should have grabbed just here. It should have grabbed them, but it didn't. Okay, so what I could do there is just encourage them a little bit. Let's see if it grabs them this time. There we go. Okay, we take it all the way up to max. Just leave it there. You can fiddle around and run the engines on feather and minimum. So basically, where all engines are running very fine, our generators have been all reset and are working perfectly, and all of your lights here, except for the pitot heat switches, which I can turn on now. I should have put on our beacon before. I'll put on our nav. We'll get our passengers settled. We've got our landing lights, taxi and wing light here. Strobe is there, so not a lot to worry about. We should now go up and just make sure the temperature is looking okay for the cabin. And it looks a bit, 20, just a little bit of 20. You can warm it up a little bit. Okay, so we've got all our engines running and our generation power. We can double check that if we really want to. We can go and have a look up here. Switch over to the generators. So everything's looking pretty good. So left and right engine. Now, next thing to do, we don't need this for the moment, and we can get rid of the external exterior paint. Sorry, external power supply. GPU away, the external power switch comes off automatically. All your lights are pretty well out now, as you can see. Okay, before we taxi, we have to put on, turn on what's called the auto course. We go down to the altimeter. I'm going to leave it, leave the Q&H on 299 and 2 because I've purposely set the weather up for a good day. Notice how our GPS, our Garmin's coming on again. So let's quickly see whether we can clear that menu. Delete that flight plan. And we're going to go go for the one that I've got from Sim Brief. So there we go. Yankee Mike, Lima Tango. Oh no, Henry's there. Looks like it was my flight plan. That's got me. Oh no, sorry, there we are. Yankee Mike, Lima Tango to Yankee Mike. Is that the right one? Yeah, Echo November, that's it. Alright, we'll let in enter. And there's our flight plan. Around 35 nautical miles there. Now, as far as the departure is concerned, Launceston has got no SIDS, which is okay because the government won't allow me to fly SIDS and it won't allow me to fly stars. So fortunately in this particular case it should be straight out. Should be. Now for example, now if I go to the menu, yes, nothing's going to come up. Progress, let's have a look. Should show 0. Oh no, it is showing one. I'll have to have a quick look at my charts here and just see. Bear with me for a moment. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to go straight out, follow the route. Yeah, the next point is Ursa. Just look at my the chart, my little nav chart that intercepted straight out to Ursa. So I'm going to go that way. I think this is showing a different departure runway. In this particular case, I'm going to use runway 32 left. Saves any complications. So you can go back down. And we'll set our seat tot. And take our percentage up to about 95. There's no ACT on, so I'm going to be worried about ATC today. We're pretty ready to roll. So to get moving, first off we have to unlock the steering. Otherwise, all we're going to get, if we don't activate this one, is we're just going to get the rudder control, but we're not going to get any steering. So to fix that, push that in, and we drop the brake, the foot of the brakes. So the enunciator is clear. So we should be ready to rock and roll. Just do our check our controls. Okay, here we go. All the way forward, all the way back, all the way left, all the way right. I might move it out of the way again. And our steering and our brakes. move because we've got room to. We don't need push back here. Should be able to just power straight up. Up a bit. Very sensitive to steering this aircraft. Did I put my taxi light on? And I put our wing light on. You can see what I mean by sensitive steering. Now it doesn't hurt to bring up these controls for throttle condition levers because you really don't want to be pushing too far forward on the throttles because it will really take off and move on you. And if you come back too far to slow down, it will go into reverse. So it's always good if you keep your throttles on at least the well, usually it should be the ground idle and not the idle. This is for your descent idle, for when you're descending the aircraft and you've got your throttles right back. This is where you come to. You don't come all the way down. But it doesn't hurt to push them up a bit if you're slowing down. You can see the beta came on then. Very sort of sensitive when it comes to the throttles. You've got to keep your eye. See how it's starting to get away? So it's going into reverse, I believe anyway. So what I'll do is I already set the nav switch on, and what I also like to do now is move the CDI over to GPS, so that when we depart it'll go straight over to auto throttle. To autopilot. There is no auto throttle on this aircraft, it's all by hand control. Okay, now during the climb out I like to use indicated airspeed, and to do that just stop here. We go go down to the indicated airspeed over here, you see the little bug. So I usually bring that around to say 130, which means that once I go over to autopilot, the aircraft will automatically climb at 130 knots up to the set altitude. Normally what happens is, I'll just move this fellow out of the way for the moment. What can actually happen, get that beater forward a bit. It's not going to move. What I normally do is I hit the climb button after we get to a certain height, and that will move this bug over to 3 positions. One's around about there, so I might demonstrate it here while I've got the aircraft lined up. And if we come back and if we watch this little bug here, we hit the climb, and you've got 1, 2, 3 positions. So you can set that bug for the climb to either one of those positions, and the aircraft will climb at that set speed. Now, unfortunately, if you go first to indicated airspeed, which it should be showing now, as it says here, it's only got an 88, which can't be right. Bit of a bug there, and they're quite aware of that. So what I might do is, rather than using indicated airspeed, I'm going to go straight over to climb, and I'm going to climb out of it. You can see it's showing 98. I don't know why it's showing 98 when it should be showing 140. And let's see how we go with this. Okay, so just about ready to take off. I have to push this fellow here. Now, as you throttle up on this aircraft, you do not take the torque past the 100. You've got to set it so the torque is 80, and then what happens is that the CTOP takes over and will power up the aircraft. Can't say it's exactly like you go over to best if I show you how it works. Okay, here we go, flaps. Another thing I must admit is a bit annoying is when you set your flaps, you don't hear any clicks. Okay, let's go. Oh, no, first off, they come on. Now we should be right. So we're watching our torque, and we don't go much past 80. V1s are going to be about just a bit over 100. You can see the aircraft speeding up by itself, which is very handy. So say V1 is going to be 120, so we lift off. So positive rate, gear up. So easy climb out. See our speed's just slightly below 100, not 140 knots, and it's just sort of climb. It doesn't want to go past that. Now I haven't set the autopilot yet, but we've got the nav on, and I'll set the autopilot. Now it's just clicked in. How do I do that? Well, I've got a button assignment, and it's assigned to this switch here, which I'll explain a little bit later. Let's have a look and see if we're lining up for our GPS. Now we can put our flaps up. Now you'll notice now our climb out is stopped at 140 knots. So that's the climb speed working. We're going to go off and put our auto coursing off. Everything else is okay. Climbing up. You see the speed just will stick on that 140. It's not exactly an auto throttle, it's just a controlled climb. It's a bit like indicated the airspeed climb out. And of course the alternative is you can always set the aircraft up to a vertical speed climb out. You have to obviously juggle the throttle yourself to get the right speed. Let's have a quick look at our instruments. Torque is just below the 100, which is good. Now our prop is showing close to 140 or 14. I think it's 1400 actually. Our engine revs are just a bit on 100, so we're nearly into the red. So what we can do is we can drop back a bit, bring back our revs a little bit. Very sensitive. Watch it. And what we can do is we can bring back our condition lever from max, and if we come back we can bring our props down to about 1330. I think that's about the recommendation, and that's set for the flight. So we can just go ahead and let the aircraft climb at that speed all the way up to 18,000 feet. There's probably no need to speed it up beyond that during the climb, but obviously it will judge climb rate from the set speed. And if you look here now, vertical speed is just over 1,000 feet a minute, which in an aircraft like this is probably, that's okay. So there's our first waypoint at Essendon coming up. Another 30.5 nautical miles. What we'll be doing later is, as the aircraft gets up to the cruising altitude, like I do with all my videos, I'll put it on pause and we'll come back before we get to the top of descent. In which case we're going to be using the VNAV facility on this particular aircraft, which we can use as we get closer, but I'll run through all that. So coming up the 10,000 foot mark, we can turn off our landing lights. Everything else can stay. We've taken our seat belts off already. Nothing else needs to be touched here. this aircraft, of course, you can fly VOR to VOR or NDBs. So it'll do it all. And we can do an ILS approach. Now, just something while I think about, I'll just backtrack on something I said before about SIDS. That's an Essendon. That's why I got the wrong one up. Let's go and put in YBTL. There we graph. I was looking at the wrong airport. Okay, no, that's not town. What am I doing? That's Townsville. It's YMLT. Yankee Mike Lima Tango. Should have it now. There we go. Okay, let's. Why did that come up? Try it again. That's more like it. Okay, if you have a look here, SIDS. Hardly much comes up at all. There's the Urson one that I've got to take it. That's the one that I couldn't line up with in the charts. I go back to the taxi, airport information. So we were down here and we taxied down. Departed runway 32 left. These others over here just grass strips for general aviation. While we're up here, we may as well put in Essendon. Why didn't that switch over to Essendon there? Let's try this again. It's still showing the Launceston. There's a bit of a problem with my navigraph. That's odd. It's showing up Launceston, it shouldn't be. That's better. Look at that, it's still showing Launceston. I restarted. That's more like it. I don't know why I did that. That's a bit odd. We're going to probably be coming in on 2.6, I think. That's I think 2.6 is the one with the. I want to do an ILS approach. So the only runway that's got ILS on pretty soon is 2.6. Yeah, which will be this one here. Let's have a look at that. So, yeah, that, there's no stars for Essendon. It's just a case of vectoring yourself in. Yeah, there's runway 26 there. Fairly basic sort of ILS approach. Anyway, I'll come back to that later. see here, that's the north coast of Tasmania. Normally this area here, I'm pretty certain that's heading up to what's called Devonport. Devonport's just up here, should be in that area there. If you want to get over to Tasmania other than by air, you've got to take a ferry across. It's from Victoria, which is way up here in Melbourne, and usually the ferry comes into Devonport, everything's offloaded. Take your car with you, of course, drive from that point. There's a small airport up there, but it's, I remember serves me right, it's, when we get past the length for a turbo pop aircraft, it's just a good miles. Oh, it's good, it's 6,000 feet, so that's always a possibility. In actual fact, I'll just go back inside so I can reset the ground. Rex Aviation do not have a flight, a route from Launceston, which we're flying today. And I'll drag my map over just to show you what's happening now. Now there's Launceston. Runway 32 left was what we departed from. We're now flying up to the northwest. Now we cross the coast at Devonport and over Bass Strait up to this area of Phillip Island. That's where, for those of you who are into MotoGP, that's where they do a lot of MotoGP racing. Let's get rid of that, go back up to that. And this is Melbourne area. There's Melbourne Airport up there. Rex Aviation actually fly in and out of Melbourne. I don't think they fly in and out of Essendon, but I just wanted to do that today. So you can see our approach is going to be in from the east, ILS into runway 26. Getting back to what I was going to say, Rex Aviation will have fly aircraft from this place here, which is King Island, up to Melbourne Airport. They also fly from Burnie, which for some reason is not showing an airport on this map. I don't know whether that's the Wynyard Airport is the one for Burnie, but I'm not sure. And then of course they do fly around the lower, well, a lot around the coastal areas of Australia and inland, over from Melbourne to Adelaide to Mount Gambier, places like that. You can see this is not a very long flight. Once we get over the Bass Strait, we'll be descending into Essendon. Should be coming up on the 18,000 foot mark. Flight level 180, I should say. We're still maintaining our speed of 140 knots. Once we level off, you should see the obviously the speed of the aircraft will speed up, and we'll be probably cruising at somewhere around about 180, 190. I haven't touched the QNH, of course, because it's still the same. I did a check of the weather earlier and through active sky, and it was pretty bad. lousy weather, and I thought, well, not such a good weather conditions to demonstrate the aircraft. There we are, we're at 18,000 feet now. We should see the speed now. The engine the aircraft start to speed up. Once you've flown this aircraft a few times and you get used to the systems, it's quite good. It's obviously improved since LES who did their update. There's quite a list of change logs that they've done, but of course, unfortunately, like everything else, there's always the odd bug. And what we should be doing here now, seeing we're up level, we should put our engine sync on, get down here, and just hard to see it there. So there's a switch, so that's right, prop synchronisation. Make sure that our flaps are up. And again, like I said earlier, it would be good if there was some sort of a detente click to know that you've, what's the position they're in. Double check here on the bottom here. Make sure put our seat top off earlier. Bring that back around to 70, leave it there. Before I mentioned about the autopilot, you can actually do this manually, like using the mouse, or in my case I've got a rocker switch on my joystick assigned, so that I hold it down. These two levers, as you see it, swing forward. The one on the left is, the one on the right is actually the autopilot, and the one on the left is for the I have a bit of a mind blank here. It'll come to me. So, seeing that we're at our cruising level, our speed hasn't increased much. Don't seem to be having too much of a headwind to slow us down. Possibly I might be able to, let's have a look at our engine revs. Might be able to increase it slightly, bring it up to just below the 100. Very slowly. And we should see some sort of increase in speed now. As I said, it should go up to around about 190. And while we're slow, we've definitely got our flaps up. Nothing outside. Just check our ground speed. I'll do now is I'll just pause the recording and rather than just sit around watching it cruise along the next probably half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. I'll just put it on pause and I'll come back when we're getting close to descent. Okay, here we are back again. We're still at flight level 180. Our next waypoint is Unagi in about 66 nautical miles. Now, before I get the aircraft ready for a descent, there's just a couple of things I thought I'd just run through. Before, when I had that brain blank, that mind blank, when it came to these two levers here. One on the left is to control the yaw damper. Now, if you're flying along and the aircraft is not using autopilot, you can engage the yaw damper separately. But if you engage the autopilot, you will also get the yaw damper. You can't just engage autopilot and leave the yaw damper off. So something to remember. And down in this section of the aircraft, I just thought I'd just go back down and point out the ATC frequencies are dialed in here, and also for for your squawk, you dial the squawk in there. I really meant to say this is where your frequencies for ATC are, and this is your squawk. Also, you've got your ADF frequencies here for NDBs. This is your CTOT control. Now, also on here, and I won't move these knobs, but this is where you can set your courses and your for both course for both left and right for captain, co-pilot, and then your heading in the middle. Now, I sort of found it a bit of a pain to have to keep looking down if I want to do my headings. So what I've actually done is I've got two assignments. This is the first one. So if I'm using a heading, which I'm not in this case, this is where I can, if I want to, I can control the heading direction, and this of course will be my course 1, course 2. These are really just sort of standby ones because with the heading one, I've actually assigned a hat switch for my headings again, so I don't need to look down. Now I can sit here in the pilot seat and look at the controls and the instrumentation, and just move the bugs around here for the heading just by using the hat switch. The best thing, I'll give an example of that. If you watch the bug down here on the direction indicator, you can see it slides left and right, and if you look up in the top left of the screen, you can see it also flashes out the heading. So I find this very handy. I can be looking ahead, and if I want to steer for say for 291, it'll show up, and then after it's set, it disappears. So that's the one handy little thing. Over here, of course, is all your circuit breakers, but they don't act if they're just there for show. Same thing with, I think there's some stuff down here, fire equipment. This approach chart thing doesn't pop out. You have to do those like I showed before. If you want to put them on the yoke, you can do that. And what else is there? I can demonstrate. There's all your lighting, flood lighting, your panel lighting. Here you can put in your flight number. I think you can. I think it works. How does it? Oh yeah, up and down. So you can use that if you want it. Not quite sure whether these switches do anything particular. Although it looks like it, you can switch over COM1, COM2 there. I don't think you can do much with the nav switches. And what else do we see? Oh yeah, if you notice now our speed, it's up to 170. Alright, now as we're heading towards the next waypoint, and we're going to have a look at our approach. So hit the approach button on the 530, select approach. Now you can't use stars, and in fact there are no stars for entering into Essendon Airport. You have to use your vectors with the choice of 3 initial approach fixes. Now you'll probably know if you've used the vector approach for ILSs or RNAVs, that usually one of these approach points is for a direct approach in, and the others will be either left or right. So for example, coming up from the south, from using this before, I know that my southern approach is going to be with this particular waypoint here, Linear, Mike Echo, November Echo Alpha. But to have plenty of distance to come in, I'm just going to use the straight in approach, which in this case will be a T-boat, and that's on my map. So we move that down to there and we hit enter. Now it says load or activated. Now because I've got one more waypoint before I need to do the approach, and that's at Onagi, I'm only just going to load it, so it'll just be an enter. Now if we go to the flight plan, we can see the approach. So there's your Atibo. Then you've got your final approach fixes in here. And you can see that I've got a couple of waypoints that I've still got to come to before I hit Atibo. And Atibo is where I'm going to use VNAV descent. You can't use the VNAV descent that I've found unless you're actually activating the approach. Just to give an example here, we'll go to VNAV. Now I'm going to start the process off as if I was activating. I'd like to be at 3,000, go back again, sorry. I'd like to be going at 3,000 feet at Antigua, because that's going to put me well in line for the approach, which is 3,000 feet. I really don't need to do that until I get to Monty, which I will probably do anyway, but this is just an exercise Now that's going to be the target altitude at mean sea level. Now just say I want to be at the Atiba position. I want to be at 3,000 at say 2 or 3 nautical miles before I reach it. So I'll put in here say 2, and then I go to the next one, and it's to be before and not after. So we'll move the cursor here, and you'll see that I can get the airport Essendon up. I can get some of the waypoints along the glide slope, but I can't get a TiVo up, and that's because I haven't activated the approach. So what I've actually got to do is I've got to wait until I get to the last waypoint. And I'll go back here again, which is Essendon. And once I pass Essendon, I can activate VNAV. So just to go back here, flight plan, clear. You can see the waypoints are showing up now. Unfortunately, they're cluttered here, but that Essendon will be in there. So there's nothing much I can do about the approach just yet using the VNAV until we get past that last waypoint of Essendon, and we're heading towards a T-boat which is in the approach. I hope that's as clear as mud. So we just go back to our flight plan and just let things move along. Now the ILS approach to Essendon, runway 26, has a frequency of 109.9 and an approach course of 257 degrees. So, wait, I'll just put that back down. So 109.70, and you'll see, sorry, 109.90, what should it be? Yeah, 109.90. You can see I've already put those in the nav instrumentation so that we're ready to go. In the Saab, you do your entries on the bottom. I'll reproduce that. So you've got the back one for changing that over, and then you click the button up. And because they're duplicate, it's got 109.9 there, and you do the same for the first officer's side. There's also a pop-up here, as you can see, that you can use, and you can enter those in there, and you can also change your comms over up here as well to save. For example, that's 125.0, and there we are, 125.00. So you can do your comms through that little pop out without having to go down and switch over, which is going to be handy for ATC. And again, to set the frequencies, you go to the bottom. This is just the fake frequency, of course. Let's just make that 140, and the back one 129, and then if you hit the button, it should work. I don't know why it's not. Hang on, there it is. That should have flicked got to go up the top to get it. So that's a little pop out you can use. Comes in handy. Of course you can input your scorecard without XPDR if you want. You've got your ADFs for NDBs. You nav1, nav2 over here. Quite a handy little thing. Coming over the southern coast of Victoria. And that's Phillip Island, you should see it probably a little bit better. It's a bit hazy outside. Yeah, that's a quick check to see how our fuel situation is going. And we're still pretty right. Haven't used a lot. It's well detailed, this aircraft, I think. Unfortunately it doesn't have happy tab, but then again it doesn't have a glass cockpit. I believe you can swap the 530 over for the 750, and somehow I don't think leading edge simulations are going to update the cockpit to glass one. No mention of that. So my guess is they probably won't. Now I don't have the Coronado one, but from my memory it also only has, is it the 430, maybe 530 as well, so I don't believe that's a glass cockpit with a G1000 or anything like that, or any type of FMC. Quick check down here to see what that's our outside temperatures on this 2-1. I'm not really going to worry about any icing at this stage. I don't think it's going to bother us. But if it was looking a bit bad out there, we can turn on anti-icing for the props and for the engines. Now, I do believe this has weather. I can skate ahead on this thing to see the actual approach, but I always seem to get myself into a bit of bother here. Because I haven't activated the approach, you've only seen the last line draw into from Monty, is it? And there's the T-boat that I'm going to be going for. Let's hope I can get back to the plan. Thank you. Still going to be a bit tricky with some of these settings on the 530. Okay, next waypoint is coming up at 20 miles. That's Warren. Bypass Monty and Essendon, because they're down here, Monty's down here, so it's doubled up. But if I go to, once we get past Warren and if I hit the approach, it should, hopefully should clear those two out. We should just be left with the Essendon Yankee Mike Echo November. Straight to a T-boat from where I am now over to here to make life a bit easier. Okay, here we go. Go to progress and we'll activate the approach and see what happens. Okay, let's have a look at the flight plan. So there you go. It's done away with all the other waypoints, and we're going straight up to a T-boat now. Now we should be able to do our VNAV. Okay. Now you can remember when I did it before. I don't know why it's gone to 1,800 feet. I don't want 1,800 feet. I want 3,000 feet. Oh, I know why it slipped back to 1,800, because it shows runway 126 in here. But I want flight level 3,000, and I want to go I'm going to leave the 2 nautical miles before. Now this is where I switch over, and we should be getting a TiVo up. Okay, so we hit the enter for a TiVo. Now my vertical speed I want at 1,600 feet a minute, and it will tell me that I should be descending to the target already. So I've let mine descend a little bit too late. Let's see if it can do it a lot faster. Even to 2,000, okay. I will go to 2,000 feet a minute. It might be enough. I might have to vector myself. So we'll set our altitude to 3. Speed, and vertical speed goes down to, I'm going to take it down to 2,000. Still probably not enough, but already, okay. I have a sneaky feeling I'm probably going to have to do a vector out. Left it too long to do the descent. We're not going to make it down to 3,000 here. What we have to do, of course, is because we don't have an auto throttle, we've got to come back and we go to the idle position up here. And it'll show a descent rate here as 2,000 feet, which is what we set. It's going to keep it's sped up to about 200. And I know I could take it down a bit faster. The descent rate a little bit lower, but a little bit reluctant to see what happens. So I'm going to go to 2.5, and hopefully it's not going to speed up and overspeed. We'll go back and check to see whether that made any difference here. 2.5. I don't think it will. No, we left it too late. Should have done that further back. Okay, I have to think this one up. Leave him out of the way. 13,000. How the hell are we before we get to a T-boat? It's only 16, so we've got a long way to descend before we can get to 3,000. I wonder whether at that speed we can get to Monty. See how we go. Try Monty. No, still the same problem. If we're getting into Manef, and Manef is probably on the glide path. I'm not going to make it, so how can I get around this? I might have to do a heading. I might do a heading and just wash off a bit of speed, come back onto, I might just do that, 45, let's see if we can go over the heading mode. First off, we'll make sure that we set the bug for what we're doing now, and then I'll go over to 45 degrees and change our direction for the heading mode. We should turn to the right now, and all the time coming down. Put our landing lights on and get our passengers to sit down. And she's coming down fast, but not fast enough. Don't like descending at this speed because we're really pushing it. So I might drop the speed back a bit on that. Yeah, descent one of those sort of recommended speeds. Now we should see the indicated airspeed should start to drop back. I need to be around about 150 for the approach into the T-bow. Can't use the VOR yet. There's no VOR at Essendon, and the ILS probably won't show. Now I'll bring up my pop out here for the throttle and condition lever, so keep an eye on them. And you can see our speed's dropping down now to, and also our altitude. We've got to watch it, we're not too low. It looks like it's pretty right. Flying on around out of Melbourne. Okay, then what I could do is we can go back to nav. The aircraft should come back to the left, get on course for T-bar. As you level out, that speed will drop right back by itself. Just a bit of self-vectoring, that's all. That's a bit of ortho around this area that I've put in. Go, and we're levelling out at 3. So now the speed's dropping right back, so can't let it get too low, so we just got to balance it nicely. About, I think, around about 170. I think so. It's a comfortable area. Just come back a bit. It's very, very sensitive, this throttle control. Really got to keep your eye on it. So I don't need this actually. What I'll do is I'll put the condition report to max again. And try and keep that needle, speed needle, where it is now. Very sensitive. Okay. We should be back on course now. Getting that way. Hopefully we'll get back, and if not, we're going to have to go in straight to Monty. I don't think we're going to get the turn in time. It's gone straight again. Okay, let's go flight plan. Let's go down here, and we'll hit the direct 2. It overshot, it couldn't pick up the T-bow. Keep an eye on our speed there. Don't need that anymore. We're swinging back around now to a T-bar. Line up. There we go. Okay. feet altitude, 3,000 feet. Now all we're going to worry about is picking up the ILS guide slope. Coming in nicely to a T-bar now. You'll see also that the ILS frequency that we set up here is automatically shows up in the 530. And then when we start to line up, we can flick over to the localizer watching our speed here. As we get to the approach, we have to click on our seat type again. Watching our speed, now we're starting to line up. That's good, 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 good. Looks like we'll be landing into the sun, unfortunately. That's Essendon over there in front of us. And what we'll do is we will go over to localizer and see whether we can pick it up. It'll stay on course until we go. And we'll make sure we've got our course set. And the course was 257. There we go. We don't need that anymore. So our course is set. We now just got to watch for get the glide slope, but already there's an indication that we've got the ILSs locked in there. Now we'll slow her down a bit. 150. We can take our first notch of flaps. Sorry, our first notch of flaps. Flaps. To activate the approach, we hit this button over there. So I'm going to put the landing speed roughly at, say, about 120. So we can keep our eye on that bug as our landing speed. You can see our ILS is starting to come in ever so slowly. And we can now engage it. And it should go green here. Capture. We'll probably speed up a bit now because it's going to drop us down, and we're descending already. So come back with the throttle a bit. We don't want it to get too fast coming in. How far out are we? And 2.6. We've got about 5 knots, so coming up to the 5 soon. That's just letting us know that our altitude is locked in. Come back a bit on the throttles again, drop the speed, and we can put our gear down and just look outside. Get ourselves set up for the landing. Still descending, speed 140. Not an easy aircraft to land, this one. It can be very tricky. Not quite sure why that keeps going off. So how many flaps is that flap position here? Flap 15. Tells us what we can set our flap speeds at. 35 is at 140, so we can go flaps 60, flaps 20. Down to 1400 feet. Don't know what the weather situation's like, the wind speed. Again, because I'm not flying at with active sky and it's not showing anything. Let's get ready. And just come up and touch here. Just so we can get a bit there. About 1,000. Let's go hands on now. Now what's got to happen is just got to bring it back over again, and I've got to put up the yoke, and I've got to hit this twice, otherwise it'll drive you mad. There we go, straighten her up again. Power's back, the speed's back to 120. Low. Don't lose our speed. Yeah, that switch over there can just take your mind off things. You can see she comes in pretty fast. Oh, there's some trees there. Yep, okay. Hard landing, okay, I'll accept that. You've got to push forward on the nose on this thing too, otherwise it doesn't want to go down. A little bit of tail wagging there. My pedals could be a little bit less sensitive. And there we are. Not the best of landings, but I'll take it. Like I say, it's not the easiest of aircraft to land. It really does. Look at this, it wants to get away. Let's go into reverse. This is where you bring this up. You to keep your controls down on idle, engine idle. It's a handful, but it's fun. Now we'll pull her up here. And clean her up. Okay, so the landing lights can go off. We can. I've got the taxi light on. Oh no, sorry, wrong ones. There's the landing lights. There we go. Taxi. I left the taxi on. I shouldn't have. Turn our strobe off. Everything else can wait until we find a spot to pull up. It's mainly a GA airport, so you probably aren't going to find any good facilities for our passengers here. Have a look. Better off we go down to the right, I think. And see how she gets away from you very easily, this aircraft. On the ground, taxi. And like I say, this is mainly GA, fairly large GA airport. So I'm just going to probably pull in something here. See if I can find a spot. Let's stop there. What have we got? Well, I suppose it's a strange sort of setup. I think I'll just park it straight ahead. That'll do. Over here. Keep coming forward a bit further, eh? Lewis. Pop inside and we'll put our parking on. Now, one thing that happens with this aircraft is if you cut the power, if you cut the throttles, you lose your power straight away because you lose your generators. So what I've got myself in the habit of doing is to assume that there's ground power available. Get out the GPU. Put it on so that it's available. Then we bring the condition levers all the way back, and that'll kill the engines. But that means we've still got external power. Just to keep things alive. Sound off for me. Okay, we'll turn, make sure we're out. Oh, no, we won't. We can probably leave them on. That's instrumentation. We can turn off the, make sure the ice protection's off. Pitot, I mean, and we don't need the emergency lights anymore. And we've got our strobe off, we can turn our nav off, we can let our passengers get up, we can turn off that and the taxi light. We go here. Before I do that, what I might do, no, it's probably a bit too late. I was going to do a replay, but I've got the, look, what I might do is I'll just see if I can do a replay, but I'll have to disconnect the ground power. I know it's going to turn everything off, but you can't do a replay on this with the ground power connected because it stays there. Okay, so we should be right. Let's give it a shot, see how bad that was. And the other thing I noticed with this aircraft is, you know, don't get sound on the replay. Pretty certain you don't, so let's just see if I'm right. Yep. speed it up a bit. I don't know why that is, but that's it is what it is. And we're coming in over a lot of the Melbourne suburbs. Okay, let's take this now. Yeah, she moved. That got the trees there, didn't I? Yeah, came in a bit low. See how the nose on that aircraft likes to stay up, so you've really got to push forward on the yoke. Yeah, hard landing. The reverse thrust props I didn't sort of get them going for some reason. Yeah, there's a little bit of fishtailing there. Let's just go back up quickly and have a look. Yeah, we'll do a shift 3 on this one. I was too low. Oh, look at this. There go the trees. Thump. Yeah, that was hard. See how that nose come? Oh, I bounced. Yep. Yeah, it's always a very fast landing in this aircraft. That shouldn't have happened. Let's just go back up here again. That should be a shift 2. Let's try that. Bouncy, bouncy. Yeah, see how fast they come in? They're very, very fast aircraft. Okay, that's enough of that. What I'll do is I'll come out of replay mode. Go back inside. Yeah, see now because I've got no power. What I'll do very quickly before we finish up, I'll put the ground power on again. So it is available. There we go. Alright. I want to go back to what I had in mind. And that was to open the door. We've got to go this one first. And then this one. Open the door. Should have done a view of the landing from here, but it's too late now. There's another view I had. Should have done, but I'm not going to go back. We'll go over here to the door, and to open it up, first this fella here, that one, push the door open, move him out of the way, bring over the stairs, drop him down, lift him to the side, there we go. Already. Passengers can get off and I can finish up. So everything's off there. I should have put the seat on landing. It's probably why the reverses didn't work. My mistake. And let's get everything off and let's close everything down. Power we don't want any more outside. Light should go off. Cold and dark. So there it is. That's the updated version, which I'm going to fly a lot more. I like this particular aircraft. So I hope you enjoyed that little flight. A few little glitches here and there, but otherwise I enjoy flying this aircraft. So that's it for me. Until the next time. See ya.